Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And guys, we've got a fun one for you guys here in today's video. The Lauria here, the newest legendary tier event ship to come into World of Warships Legends. And like expected, guys, this ship is going to run you around $100 to $150 in addition to grinding all of the events. And the only way you can obtain it is through purchasing crates and getting the event currency. Now, before we get into the review, I just wanted to mention something because I believe this is a topic that is slowly brewing in the community. And that, of course, is the cost of this ship and Wargaming's monetization strategies. Now, the next few minutes or so are going to be me ranting for a little bit. So if you guys want to skip that, I will link that in the timestamps down below. And as always, stats, commander guide, and a good little review of the ship will be at the end of the video. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get on with Aaron's little rant here. In no reality is this or any ship in this game ever going to be worth $100 to $150. I made a joke when this ship was announced on the Facebook pages that it is going to cost 17 payments of $69 or whatever I posted to draw attention to that post for viewership. And in the comments, someone said, how much is it going to cost? And I actually said, I believe it's going to be $100 to $200 because that is similar to what the Ohio was last year, the Yoshino the year before, and I believe the Lenin a few years back. I have played this game for 5 years and I know all of these strategies, but it seems like every year people are still shocked by the overwhelming cost that each update brings. And I have made not one, not two, not three, but 4 videos in the last 6 months, all drawing attention to how you should not spend money and the overpriced monetization in this game. But because I do not bitch about it 24/7, there is an entitled group of gamers with no actual problems in life that seem to think I am pro charging people $200 for a ship. I have never once said, guys, I think you deserve to be charged $200 for a boat. I just know that wargaming is always and will forever be wargaming, and no amount of bitching, no amount of videos, no amount of feedback is ever, and I mean ever, going to change that. So, if you want to come to my comments every day and complain about the cost of this game, by all means, go ahead and do so. I am simply not going to sit here and, wither in self-pity and just constantly involve myself in video game drama because some people think that community contributors or whoever needs to be doing more in order to change a company that could not care any less. Not to mention them, EA, Activision, Blizzard. I don't think there's a single major video game developer that is not actively trying to suck dry every last ounce in terms of microtransactions, monetize content, whatever the situation is, it is all a money trap. There is not a single free-to-play game or microtransaction skin that is not designed to take your hard-earned dollars. If you do not understand that by now, you probably never will. With that being said, I have decided to take my channel somewhat in a new direction over the past 6-7 months to a year, where I am just not involving myself excessively with that drama. Does it need to be mentioned every now and then? Absolutely. I have a video that I've been trying to do because I'm honestly tired of the reskins. Out of everything in this game, I think the reskins are the laziest and just the clear way that they are trying to draw extra dollars from you. But that being said, most of us come to my channel and other YouTube channels to escape the constant, negativity that life is. You don't want to come home from work and listen to somebody else complain about playing a video game. So, again, with that being said, we're going to move on to the review. If you agree with me, that's awesome. If you don't, it's a free country. Most of them are. But anyway, let's get on to the review of the Lauria here. And right on cue, we actually have a beautiful salvo with 6 penetrations there, right into the upper armor belt of that Colombo for about 25 to 27,000 damage. And with that being said, that was probably one of the best salvos that I got. If you guys watched me on Monday playing this ship, I was not really over the moon about it. I felt like the SAP was a little inconsistent, and despite this ship having a 1.9 Sigma and I believe battle cruiser dispersion, but for some reason, it just didn't feel like I was getting the most accurate salvos. Dr. Fat actually reminded me of a quote that I think fits this ship rather well, and here it is.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And that is honestly the perfect clip of what it feels like playing this battleship. Sometimes you will get those massive 20 to 30k chunks out of these 457mm SAP shells on the main belts of battleships, and you better watch out if you're a light cruiser against this thing. However, the other times, you will get salvos similar to this one. This was, I believe, a little bit better. We get 2 pens here, but you will get 1 pen for 3k there, a few shells missing, a few shattering, etc., and just feel like you are wasting your time. However, there is another component to this ship, and in the limited games that we have, we actually are averaging 1.8 million attracted damage. The armor profile of this thing, while you do have quite possibly the largest citadel of any battleship, or any ship really in the game, with the exception of the Mino or maybe the Defense now, when you can angle your ship appropriately, as we are doing in this situation, our team decided to abandon us, so we are playing defensive here while our team hopefully wins the other side, as they have done. These ships are now forced essentially into a crossfire. Our ships there at Bravo, they have to pay attention to, and we now have access to their broadside. Here is another potential downside of this ship. Your AP is short fuse on top of the SAP, so a salvo like this, which typically I felt like would have been a deletion of that Schlieffen in most other battleships. Now, of course, RNG comes into play. As you saw, though, we only ended up with about 10k on the broadside of that Schlieffen, and that was honestly how I felt most of the evening on stream playing this ship. Now, there are, of course, those evenings where you feel like you get every broadside under the sun and your shells splash anywhere except the ship, as they did in that salvo. As you can see, the expression on my face was not a joyous one there. However, like we mentioned, when you can put the ship in the right spots, it is very tanky. You have a moderately fast reload with some guns that can do a good bit of chunk alpha damage. However, and this is a big however, as you saw with that salvo on the Schlieffen there, after 1 or 2 salvos of a particular part of a ship, the SAP will saturate that region, similar to HE, but I feel like the SAP saturation is a lot more. As you saw, we got about a 10 to 15k salvo earlier on that Schlieffen, and then again when we fired that previous salvo, we only got about 2k as the rest of that superstructure was saturated. So shot placement is going to be a huge factor when playing this ship. Once you saturate the bow, the upper armor belt, the superstructure, whatever the spot is, you will have to choose a different region. Now, of course, that is pending that ship is giving you access to that region. If they are semi-angled like this Colombo was here, you really only have access to that upper armor belt and the bow, as we shot multiple times in the superstructure, and you could actually see that it was saturated. You do also get access to a pretty good heal. As you guys can see, we are being HE spammed, and that seemed to be a theme. Players seem to know that this ship is pretty heavily armored when angled. However, I've seen this thing absolutely yeeted when broadside. 5 of those missed there. A mid-range shot like that, I feel like I should be getting a lot more hits. It just didn't feel like I was getting that battle cruiser type dispersion there with a 1.9 Sigma, which is more, a little bit more accurate than not. Now, this next engagement is honestly a reason that, on top of the cost, where I wouldn't, be upset if you don't get this ship. There you saw 5 pens with the SAP into the mid-belt and superstructure of that Montana for about 16 to 17k. We went ahead and switched to the AP as I was just trying to test it out as well. Now, the Montana does angle a little bit, and given that this is short fuse AP, I figured that this wasn't going to be quite the deletion that I per se wanted or felt like I would get with other battleships. But there was 4 pens and 1 overpen for an additional 15 to 16k, so it just didn't feel like, I'm getting what other battleships would get, but I guess that is the trade-off of having a fast package with a good heel and decent armor when angled. I may be a touch misplaced. Four pens. I definitely need a few more games in this ship, but honestly, Legends has kind of lost a little bit of luster for me recently. I found myself wanting to play other games and just spend more time with family, you know, in the gym, etc. after work. And after working 10 to 12-hour days, coming home and trying to deal with the player base and all of the obnoxious comments sometimes that I get, it's truly a chore in and of itself. But there was a rather well-placed shot, and then of course a missed follow-up on that Montana. We did actually manage to get a good chunk off of his superstructure previously, and I guess if you can kind of position this ship correctly and get those angles with these SAP, this ship would be a good bit of fun. But as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, in no reality does it justify the obnoxious cost. With that being said, I think this ship is pretty middle of the road if you can get those SAP salvos to work in combination with an Arthas build for that extra damage. You have some absolute pure meme potential. However, in the hands of the average player, I think this ship is just going to be another placeholder or ship that sails broadside in order to donate me or whoever is shooting at it a bunch of HP. With that salvo, though, we actually did manage to get the high caliber, and as I said at the end of this video on the live comms here, I could have went out and overhyped this boat and made it seem like the best thing since sliced bread, and I do think that the salvos you get with these 457mm SAP guns can absolutely chunk things in the right situation. But as I mentioned earlier, I do need a few more games, and I'm just not sold on it just yet. If you guys have the means, as I have always said, you've won the Powerball, all your bills are taken care of, go ahead and go out and spend $100 to $150 on crates and get this ship. If not, you guys are truly not missing that much. I would much rather take out my Venezia and have just as much fun using the SAP on that as I can in this thing. We're going to let the live comms finish out here, and we'll see you guys for the end of ship review. Honestly, the Conch is like the one ship that I do want to shoot at. Okay, they got a torpedo. Nice, nice! Watch out for the Mishashi. Best battleship in the game right here. Clearly best battleship. Right. Good job on the spots there, boys. Hey, at least they're alive. We'll give them credit. We'll give them credit where credit's due. Alright, now do we activate initiate throw sequence? I don't know where the Fook. Do I risk a turn? Fuck it, let's do it. Why not? Why not? Why not? Send it. It's the best ship in the game! 200k, this proves it! This proves it! Anyone who disagrees, you're simply fucking wrong. And I don't know if you guys can't tell, but I'm being sarcastic here, as we might cheese this kill. Best ship in the game. Clearly the best ship in the game. Not 200k bad. But that was the gameplay, and now time for the ship review, stats, commander guide, and all of that good stuff. A rather glorious looking Italian masterpiece here. I love that historical camo. A nice little front view of the boat here. I wonder if we should use that for the thumbnail. But anyway, here are our modifications. Kind of standard as always. Aiming system mod 1 in slot 1 there. Propulsion, of course, in slot 2. If you don't run propulsion, what are you doing? Concealment, of course, in slot 3. It's always nice to be able to get in and out of position, especially with your speed. And of course, legendary reload there in slot 4. But moving on over to the combat loadout, or our consumables here, kind of standard for a battleship, but I wanted to highlight the SAP, or the semi-armor piercing shells there. With a max damage of 16,600, you will only get that on ships with one plate of armor though, Citadel armor, as SAP only penetrates ever 1 plate. But there's the heal, as we mentioned in game. It's pretty decent. It's not the British super heal by any means, but as you guys saw, you can heal up a good bit of chunk damage. And there, of course, is the catapult fighter or the spotter plane or the secondary consumable. But as you guys will see here in just a second, the secondaries are not good, so you're going to want to spec into the main guns. Survivability, 79,200. Artillery, 4x2 457s with a 24-second reload, 19.4 kilometer range. Max AP shell damage of 14.9 there, and a max SAP damage of 16.6. And as we mentioned there, you can see the secondaries, a 5.2 base range, or 5 kilometers with a 0.2 from aiming systems, I do believe, but not really good in any regard. 16 of them there with a 10.7 reload. So yeah, you can spec into the secondaries. It's just not going to be doing much. AA defense is a little on the weak side there at 66. Maneuverability is actually pretty good. 35 knot top speed. Your turning circle is abysmal at 1,000 meters there, and your rudder is a 17.9. So your speed is good, but your turning is a little questionable. Make sure you position correctly. Your concealment is 13.4, of course, with that concealment module and a camo. And here is your armor, a rather chunky profile. It does deceive you just a little bit, as we will show you the Citadel in just a second, but a 32 millimeter nose, a good bit of side plating, and as you guys saw, when we angled, we were rather protected, and I actually show my stats after this, but I will just tell you now. In the 5 games I have, and that of course is going to change, 5 games is very limited, but we have a 1.8 million attracted damage per game. That is got to be near the top, if not at the top of all of my battleships. And here is the extremely exposed upper Citadel. You've got a massive middle section of Citadel that is above the water there, kind of a little double plate. And according to, I believe, a few of the historians that I've seen in chat, it's due to her power plant presentation. But the casemate actually protects you from a little bit of it. However, that mid-range kind of plunging fire, as you saw with the Musashi in that game, you're going to be very susceptible to. Here is the overview: big guns, surgical shells, and SAP shells. I'm not sure why that's gray, but anyway, I kind of like these little descriptors here in the overview. I think that, out of the small little details, this is one of the nicer ones, even though sometimes those descriptors don't really make sense. But anyway, on to our commander. We, of course, were running Azure Lane at Littorio, and upon second thought, I think I'm going to run Iachino there, as her, Littorio's main base perk kind of helps, but not as much as Iachino's. But anywhere, kind of a full accuracy type build with flammable cannoneer, crisscross there in the second slot, marksman in the third, and then reaching out in the fourth with fight fire with fire. That would probably be the only reason to keep Littorio as opposed to a different commander, Iachino, for example, as I don't think he has access to fight fire with fire. But reaching out is honestly not needed, but I think out of the 3 perks there, it's probably one of the better ones that you could choose in that slot. I always like to run fight fire with fire, especially since we're playing a lot more solo, and Will to Rebuild is just such a 2019 thing to do. Here are inspirations though: Arthas the Cold for that added damage with our fighter plane, and Apollo de Revel for added reload there. Now, of course, I probably could run a full accuracy build with Scharnhorst and Cunningham, or whatever the full accuracy inspirations there. But I think part of the reason I maybe didn't think it was that accurate is you only have 8 guns. Anytime a ship has, I feel like the magic number is 9. Less than 9 guns, you just feel you're definitely missing those added shells, which sometimes feels like less accuracy. But here's the commander I'd probably run, especially if I was free to play, minus those inspirations. Those are going to do nothing for you. This was, I think, on my Colombo or something. But that would probably be my preferred free to play or other build when we get home tonight. But that is the Lauria there, as we go ahead and look at our statistics. And they're actually pretty good. Again, only 5 games, definitely not enough sample size there, but 130,000 average damage, 1.8 million attracted, 1945 average XP with a 44% accuracy in a battleship. So the accuracy isn't fully lacking. It just, like I said, may have felt like that to me because of the lack of guns. But that is our review there. And one little final closing topic here. I'm not saying that you guys can't or not allowed to be upset about Wargaming's monetization strategy. All I'm saying is it's been the same for the last 5 years, and there's absolutely nothing me or any of the other community members, contributors, CMs, or anyone else's, can do about it. we had all of those videos from a different previous CC, and nothing changed, if you guys remember all of that. So instead of just trying to be, negative and down in the dumps all the time, complaining about those things, I'm just going to play the game, right? I'm going to play the game. I still enjoy it sometimes. Other times when I don't, when I'm not enjoying it, I'm going to switch games. So that's all I'm trying to say to you guys. There are bigger worries in life than the cost of a video game. But that's all I have for you guys. I love you guys. AA Run out. Peace.